Hi everyone, my name is Lisa. How many people did this question on the test?
I guess.
I've seen this one on several. Was this on the most recent one?
Yeah,
It was
this
last
was
year,
from
too.
the one that we took. So I kind of got a preview of this question because I took the spring 2015 practice test, which had a very similar question. So I already have a good idea of how this question works. So knights always tell the truth and knaves always lie. So, and then a knight and 12n minus 1 other people, each one either a knight or a knave, sit in a circle, and each one says, exactly one of my 2 immediate neighbors is a knave. So, since knights always tell the truth, that means that knights will have 1 knave sitting next to them. And since knaves always lie, knaves will either have 2 knights or 2 knaves sitting next to them. So I noticed that knights and knaves start with the same letter. So I decided to represent knights with a capital T in a circle for truth teller, and knaves with a capital L in a circle for liar. So if you start with a knight, the knight is always going to have 1 knight and 1 knave sitting next to it. It can be this way or this way. And then if you start with a knave, the knave is always going to have either 2 knights sitting next to them or 2 knaves sitting next to them. Because the statement that they all say is that exactly one of my 2 immediate neighbors is a knave, and knaves lie. So it has to be the opposite of that statement is true for the knaves. Does that make sense so far? You can interrupt me with questions if you want, just so you know. So the problem says a knight and 2n minus 1 other people are sitting in a circle. So if you have 1 knight and 2n minus 1 other people, that means the total number of people is 12n. Sorry, I think I've been saying 2n, I meant 12n. So to go about this, I decided to make a table, like, remember making XY tables in like pre-algebra? So I made a table with n number of people and number of knaves.
You gotta move your paper up
Okay.
or down or whatever way.
I'm taking too much space on my paper. I guess I need to zoom out. Can people still see the question?
That's
Okay.
good.
So here's my table. So if n is 1, then the total number of people will be 12. If n is 2, the total number of people will be 24, and so on. So I decided to start with n equals 1. So there will be 12 people sitting in a circle. So I drew a circle. And you know that one of them is a knight. And then you're trying to figure out like the sequence of people in the circle so you can figure out how many knaves will be in the circle. So the only pattern that makes sense is knight, knight, knave, knight, knight, knave, and so on.
Why?
Because from here, you know that the only 2, let's see, how do I explain this? I guess I should start with the knight. So this is like the main knight mentioned in the problem. So this knight has to have a knight on one side and a knave on the other side.
Okay.
And it's just kind of arbitrary which side is which. And going around the circle, this knight must be followed by a knave. So this knight has
Because he already has a knight.
knave.
Yeah, okay, I see it.
And then this knave can be surrounded by either two knaves or two knights. So since he has a knight on one side, he has to have another knight on his other side. And then the process repeats. This knight, since it has a knave by him, he has to have another knight. And this knight has a knight and a knave, and so on. So actually the only sequence that can work is either knight, knight, knave, knight, knight, knave, or knave, 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 knave. But since the problem tells you that there is a knight, that means that you can't have just a series of knaves. So the only sequence that will work in this problem is knight, knight, knave, knight, knight, knave, knight, knight, knave.
So basically, if you would have just drawn that table and made that circle, you would have seen this.
Pretty much,
But
yeah.
the statement of the problem is so overwhelming, most people look at it and say, F that, and they go on to the next one,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, and I felt really lucky that I had seen, it was a problem just like it,
And does that little pattern, did you do it also for when n is 2? And it's still the only possibility? Yeah.
So you notice that as I went around the circle, I got to the end and I didn't run into a wall. It fits. So like you end with a knave, and it's correct. The knave is between two knights.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where n equals 1. So there's 12 people. And then if n equals 2, you would add 12 more people. So
Same
you
thing.
actually notice that you can draw a break. Between these two knights. And like imagine this as a string of beads. If I got another identical string of beads and I put it over here, then the pattern would preserve because it would go knight, knight, or knave, knight, knight, knave, knight, knight, etc.
Awesome.
So that means that the order will be preserved for any multiple of 12. And it's only going to be multiples of 12 because of the formula that they give us in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the number of knaves in the circle is a direct function of n. So if n equals 1, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 knaves. So that means the number 4, so if it was 2, there would be 8 knaves, etc. So the number of knaves is always going to be 4n.
Could you raise that?
Oh. Here we go. Can you see it at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
And ta-da, the answer is C4N.
Awesome. So moral of the story, people, if you ever see the knight knaves problem again, try to remember what Lisa just did. Make yourself a table with n, number of people, number of L, and draw yourself those beads.
Yep,
And try to do it under 3 minutes.
there we go. Once you see it, it makes sense.
Yep.
The hard part is seeing it.
I've seen this problem show up on several tests, actually, so this was
Yeah,
a
there
good
was
one.
one on the spring in 2015, which was exactly the same thing. Same setup, knights and knaves. So there's probably, like you said, there are probably a lot of other ones on the previous practice test too.
So that was the trick, the table and the drawing, the visual.
Yep, exactly. Pictures help a lot.
Pictures out.
So, yeah, that's my presentation.